Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today we're doing midseason awards, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, all of that fun jazz. We're going to start real quick, though, with Jonathan Kuminga's trade demand. And the Lakers, according to Kevin O'Connor, may be looking to make some moves to get extra first-round picks. We'll talk about that and more. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, it's your least favorite 4 times a year day. It's awards day. How are you, buddy?
I'm so excited to dive into awards. I started putting my ballots together yesterday. I feel pretty good about most of it. There's always some stuff where I'm just like, man, I really have a hard time deciding between this or that. And, you know, I tried not to go too far down some of the advanced stat rabbit hole, because then that just it just becomes a loop of all sorts of things. So this one, I always try to do just like, okay, I'm going to do this off the top, and then I'm going to look at a few things here and there. Maybe this moves like player here or there, and then just kind of see where it lands. So I'm excited to talk. I have a feeling that we're going to have a few different names, and I think that's always fun to discuss.
Yeah, like my rule of thumb is that I will use like the advanced numbers to give me like a group of names to go with, right? And then I will slot the names based off of the way that, you know, the tape bears out, right? It's just easier for me in my head to use the numbers as like a listing mechanism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep. No, that makes sense. And I mean, I tried to avoid that this time. Some of these, I just like to take a different approach each time we do it, just to kind of see where things land and then get the feedback. And so I'll be honest, I did my initial list just straight up. I just started listing players. I looked at the standings so I could see the teams, and then just, okay, names that pop off for each team. Did it for defensive player, coach of the year, most improved, like rookies. It's a little bit easier just to go to NBA.com and sort by rookies, you know, in the filter. But like, again, it'll be interesting because I'm not going to be so arrogant to think that my process could be flawed. And so I do think we have some interesting conversations in terms of this player over that player, you know, on the first team, on the second team, third, like across the board. And then defense is always a lot of fun to talk about, because team defense versus individual defenders.
It's just so hard.
It's so difficult. Like I have 2 apologies lined up right now that are just tearing me apart, that I don't have them on my all defense.
Yeah, I have like 14 or 15 names for all defense, one of which is Isaiah Stewart, who isn't eligible, unfortunately, because he doesn't meet the requirement of having played at least 20 minutes in 75 games, or 75% of their games. For awards, we'll talk about what our requirements were when we get there. But I do just want to start very quickly. Shams reported today that Jonathan Kuminga, now that he is eligible as of today, January 15th, to be traded, has quote unquote demanded a trade. That's interesting language. Bryce, what are we doing here? Like, if there, and look, we're at fault here. I'll take some blame on this. We talk about Jonathan Kuminga a decent amount on this show, but has there ever been a player that has been less relevant this early in his career to the point where he's out of the rotation with Golden State right now? Like, he hasn't played in the last 13 games, to where he has gotten this much attention, to the point where, like, it's now a cycle when he demands a trade.
I mean, I just think it's funny because we all know, like, you know what I mean? Like, we all, we all know where this was leading. And so there's not even like a strategic play or anything to it that is like, oh, it's like, no, we know you're getting traded, but we know you're not demanding a trade. We know the Warriors. I checked a box score the other day, like, alert. I don't watch every single game every single night. And literally every player on the Warriors played except for him. It was some blowout win. He doesn't get in blowout wins, blowout losses. And I feel like it's been this way for at least a few weeks now. There was no question where this was leading. Going back to the summer. So it's a weird attempt at a spin that I don't think has any chance of landing.
Well, yeah, like I was talking to a NBA exec earlier and they were just like, it's just hilarious that Steve Kerr is like, this is the hill I'm dying on. Like, think about how frustrated he has to be to where it's just like, yeah, this is where I'm putting my foot down. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not playing this guy.
Yeah.
And like, I think that says something. I don't know if it says everything for sure. Like, everybody can get into different environments and thrive in different ways, right? Like, I'm for the fact that Kuminga might end up somewhere and might end up in a decent position, but it's just very funny to me that this is where he's like put his foot down. When I saw the report today, I literally just texted like a couple of my like NBA friends. I was like, this is like when Michael Scott in The Office. Have you seen The Office?
I've seen episodes like, yeah, somewhat. Yeah. Ranny loves it as like rewatching it again as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like not literally right now. She's at work, but yeah, like, so I catch episodes here and there. So I have some understanding.
So like, this is like when Michael Scott like walks into the office and just shouts, "I declare bankruptcy." Like Jonathan Kuminga demanding a trade, like thinking that you can just like walk into the Warriors front office and demand a trade and it makes any difference. No, Michael Scott, you can't just shout that you declare bankruptcy, and thus declaring bankruptcy sets the process in motion. One of my friends from an NBA team said, it's almost, and then the thing that we'll need next is Michael cutting up his credit cards, except it's like a meme of Kuminga cutting up his like Warriors gear and jerseys. And I said, like, someone needs to make a meme of Kuminga getting on a train now before they trade him. And, like Michael Scott thinking like, because he's declared bankruptcy, he has to leave town. Right. Like this is literally an episode of The Office is where we're at with Jonathan Kuminga. It is literally like a workplace sitcom right now.
And I didn't see it the other day, but I heard people talking about like, didn't his agent tweet out a video of Kuminga cooking the Hawks during a game, which the Hawks and the Warriors were playing or something like that? Like it's just,
so yeah, the Warriors are getting blown out, and Aaron Turner tweets out a video of Jonathan Kuminga going for like 25 against the Hawks or whatever. Like, does he think that that's like helpful to get his client out of there? Like, does Aaron Turner really think that tweeting out a video of Jonathan Kuminga beating up the Hawks while the Warriors are losing to the Hawks while his client's on the bench makes other teams go, oh yeah, I want to deal with this? Where if Kuminga like doesn't totally work out for us, that we're going to have some agent, for a player that, we might think has value, just tweeting out like random things like this. Like, does he think that that's a value add in some way?
Well, or that teams don't know what Kuminga has done. Like, I mean, that's what gets lost in some of this is there is a talented basketball player in there somewhere that I think could be impactful in there somewhere. NBA teams know that, and they know whether their ecosystem and their culture and their play style and all of that fits the Jonathan Kuminga style of play and talent. I don't know that they need videos on Twitter to help them understand the talent that is there and the potential that could potentially come to their team.
100%. Absolutely 100%. So yeah, that's a thing that's happening. I mean, look, it's not like they're not trying to move him. You know what I mean? It's just that they want what they want for him. I'm sure that they're trying to find a deal that they feel is equitable, and they'll go from there. We'll see where he ends up before the deadline. I would still be surprised if this, I know that they're posturing to teams that he might end up staying through the offseason or until the offseason, but like, I can't imagine they want that to happen. The other report that happened today was Kevin O'Connor said on his show that the Lakers are looking into deals like the Suns made last year, where the Suns traded one of their first round picks to Utah for like 3 first round picks. And the 3 first round picks were all very, very low value first round picks, very likely to be picks somewhere in the 20 to 30 range. And where that is going now, and why the idea of this is happening, is because they want to try and go get players. They want to, like, for instance, like the price tag that I've been told for Keon Ellis the whole way is like a late first round pick, right? Like something like that. So in theory, if you go out and you trade your 2032 first round pick for 2 or 3 other first round picks, you could use one of those picks by splitting the value of the unprotected 2023 or 2032, first round pick into 3 firsts. You could use one of those bad firsts to go and like get Keon Ellis or something like that, right? I don't think Keon Ellis is necessarily going to return a late first round pick. I'm just telling you what my impression is in terms of what Sacramento has been saying his price tag is, right? So I'm intrigued by the idea, and also think that this is probably a terrible idea for the Lakers. When you saw that, like, what was your thought, I guess, before I kind of explain why I think it's a bad plan?
I mean, I think for me, it really depends on what they end up doing with it. You don't want to get caught just like having 2. If you turn that 1 into 3, and then those 3 turn into 2 players instead of 1 player, or 3 players instead of 1 player, okay, like I can get behind that a little bit, assuming we've talked about this. They need wing 3 and D. They need a big man. And if you don't feel like you can get that in 1 trade, but you can get it in 2, because you can use one of those to go get Keon Ellis and one of those to go get big man X. Okay. Like right. I can see the idea there. I think the argument is, okay, well, is that the best use of the asset, or is it just use the value of the 2032 pick to go get a player that is singularly better than either of those 2 individual players? Or do you get stuck holding the bag on 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 2, and you never got the full value out of the original 2032 pick?
Yeah, like the question is, like, do the Lakers think they're going to be bad at some point under the Mark Walter ownership group? Right. I think that that's like the main calculation here. Do they think that they're going to go out and hire? I mean, look, like if Rob Pelinka ends up getting removed, or he steps down or something by the end of the year because there's a new ownership group in, does that result in them hiring, much like Mark Walter did with the Dodgers, the Andrew Friedman-esque kind of GM that will allow them to maneuver and continue to accumulate assets while also spending a crazy amount of money, right, on the market to allow them to be great? If they think that, like, if they think that they can just kind of Dodgers this in a way, go hire a phenomenal executive while also, you know, continuing to just spend crazy money and, you know, outspend everybody league wide, other than maybe like the Clippers or a couple other teams that have crazy money, I can see the world where I get that, but you really have to be willing to like throw your weight around financially if that's the case. Like if you're going to go down this road of moving like 2032 picks, you have to be willing to like go, okay, well, that's fine. We'll take on a bunch of bad money or distressed money maybe in order to get future picks at some point, and like use your financial weight in order to help the other teams that don't have your financial power, and then like take back draft capital in some way once you get a frankly smarter executive in there that I think would do a bit of a more impressive job than what Pelinka has done so far. We'll see if that happens, but like I think that that's the direction you have to go if you're going to do this. And it worries me, though, that they're considering doing this while Rob Pelinka is still in charge. If they're in any way, shape, or form worried about Rob Pelinka not being the guy moving forward, right? Like I almost wonder if you like kind of have to make this. It's hard because you can't go bring in the next guy within the next 2 weeks, probably, right? The guy that you believe in above all. But it's also hard for me to like go, I feel good about moving the 2032 first rounder if you think that Pelinka like might not be the guy, right? That is able to like throw the weight around financially and understand what asset capital is and understand what value is in this equation. Like it's a weird catch-22 that I'm struggling with right now a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where I went to as well in terms of what do I think the value, like what are teams going to think the Lakers 2032 is worth? You know, I mean, we're in 2026. Luka Doncic is 26 years old. Do they look at 2032 and go, okay, well, Luka's going to be on the decline by then, or Luka may not even be in LA anymore by then? But do they really think that LA is not going to be able to get the next star after Luka Doncic? You know, so it's like, that's where I also wondered if teams would really want to try to short the Los Angeles Lakers. Like of how many, there's not a ton of franchises. You wouldn't be somewhat comfortable. Like OKC is probably the number one franchise you don't want to short, right? Like right now on January 15th. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I think, yeah, but like, I don't know if they're like, well, I think, okay. I think that this is all more about teams trying to short the Lakers' future.
No, that's what I'm saying is like, but I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out is like, where is LA? Where are the Lakers in the hierarchy of teams you actually do want to short? Because I'm like, I don't want to short Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder. People thought they wanted to short the Phoenix Suns, and that's starting to backfire. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Right now, Phoenix has done a nice job turning it around for half of a season this year. Is LA a market and an organization that you feel really good about shorting just because of the market and the fact they have a 26-year-old superstar and everything that goes along with being the Los Angeles Lakers? The answer may be yes, Sam. My question is,
I think they're still like in the top 10 of teams I wouldn't want to short.
I think so. This would be a fun off-season exercise. Like what, or rank the organizations that you from the organizations you want to short to the organizations you don't. And I think the Lakers would be a bottom 10 team organization that I'd want to short as of right now.
Yeah, I don't think I want to short them. If it was still just Genie Bus into the future. And by the way, again, like I think their agreement says that like Jeannie Buss is the governor for the next 5 years. So now we're getting out past her being governor, you know, whatever that means when Mark Walter owns the, you know, lion's share of the team, obviously. But man, I've just kind of like, as a baseball fan, I've kind of seen what Mark Walter has done with the Dodgers, and that dude seems like he is really sharp and understands what he's doing and understands how to utilize his financial power in order to be successful. And yeah, I don't think I would want to short them, especially with Luka already being in tow, and potentially Reeves if they keep Reeves this summer. Yeah. Like it just feels like a difficult spot to short. But you know, if you're the Lakers, then I do kind of understand. I guess that I went into this conversation feeling not great about them doing this. And I think the more we've talked through it, the more I feel like they're in a bit of a better position to do it than when Phoenix did it last year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I still think it all comes down to the points you made and also the immediacy, the immediate plans of what you're going to do with these picks that you can acquire and how valuable those are, right? Because we both know that not all first round picks are created equal. You know, it's the whole point of the which teams would you want to short and which ones would you wouldn't, because different teams are going to have different value in terms of their picks. What can you actually get back for it? And what can you then send it out for? Yeah. Because again, if I get stuck with two of those three and I'm just holding them in my hands, then I don't know if I feel as good about not having my own. But yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. I think that's all right. And I think that's where we can end that conversation. Let's go now to awards. Okay. So midseason awards time. For this project, I gave Bryce a cutoff of 75% of games. You have to have played 75% of your team's games in order to be eligible. That is even like a little bit lower than what the actual threshold is, because I figured like I wanted a little bit of leeway for guys that, you know, might be able to get eligible in some way. But I didn't feel great about the fact that like Giannis could only miss 3 more games the rest of the year. Right. And Wemby, I think, can only miss like 3 more games.
I think they were like in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt like there was probably like a middle ground where we could hit. And I felt like 75% was the middle ground between this is probably a little bit too much in like the Giannis Wemby side, you know, the 80, 82, whatever it is, percentage amount of games that you have to play on the by the end of the year is probably a little bit too aggressive at this point of the year. 75 felt right to me though. So I do just want to lay out guys that were not eligible based off of this. So Giannis and Wemby were not eligible for awards. They're the big 2, I would argue.
I would agree.
The very clear, obvious 2. Kawhi just snuck in.
Yeah.
Under the border. Steph Curry just snuck in.
Mm-hmm.
Luka is in. Like Edie is out for all defense. Jalen Suggs is out for all defense. Austin Reeves ended up being out because he's only played 23 of 38.
Jokic? Sorry.
Jokic is in because he has just snuck under. He's at 78% of games played right now. Anybody else here that like really ended up being a question for you? Wagner ended up out because he's missed 16 games so far. Hartenstein has missed 17.
Steph Castle barely made it in for the defense conversation.
That's a good one. That is correct.
Isaiah Stewart, you mentioned already, which, I mean, I'll just spoil, like Isaiah Stewart would have been on an all defensive team for me, and we can hash that out later, but
for me too, honestly, like would have been there for me as well. You know, look, we're somewhere between teams having played, I believe it's like 38 to 42 right now. There are a number of teams that have gotten over that halfway mark. There are a number of teams that are still under the halfway mark, but we're there. Like we're in a good position right now to be able to do this.
Şengün was also right at 30. What did he ended up like? I'll spoil this. Like he ended up right out for me, so I ended up not like really diving deep. Like, did he have 75%? How many games have the Rockets played?
Şengün is over because the Rockets have played 37 games, so Şengün is there. And he was. I have a group of what probably, let's see here, 8 guys for 2 spots at the end of all NBA that maybe we'll go through, but we'll go through all this as we go. So typically when we do MVP, we start at the bottom and then go to the top. I think I actually would just want to start at the top this time because it's the easiest conversation.
Sure.
It is just Shea right now. I do think the fact that Shea has played 7 more games than Jokic, they've played the same, the Thunder and the Nuggets have played the same number of games. I think that him basically playing 18% more games than Jokic at this point does sway it in Shea's favor for me. If it was closer in that regard, I do think it would be a genuine conversation. And I think I might lean Jokic on a per game basis right now, especially given the way that he's been able to kind of lead the Nuggets through batches of injuries and everything like that. I will say the Thunder, you know, dealt without Jalen Williams for the first 25 games of the year. Isaiah Hartenstein has missed 17 games. Caruso has missed some games. Like the Thunder haven't been uniformly healthy either, though, is why this is, to me, just kind of a clear delineation right now where, because Shea has not missed the games to this point, I do think he is clearly, because of the availability factor, the MVP of the league so far.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty easy to lock in for me. I think after this is where, I mean, I don't think the next one is a super tough conversation, at least for me. And then there's some like I ended up in some like one-on-one battles for like 3, 4, 5, 6, and some of those things. And then the group started to get a little bit bigger. But yeah, I mean, Shea has been incredible all year, averaging 32, 6.5, 4.5, 1.5 steals, doesn't turn it over, 55% from the field, Sam, almost 40% from 3, almost 90% from the line. Like, we're talking about a dude that's almost 50, 40, 90 right now. And even through, a rough stretch, quote unquote, for the Thunder, it's still the best team in the NBA. They have the best net by over 5. He is a part of this defense that is incredible. He's not the part. He's not one of their all defense nominations, but he is part of that and absolutely drives their offense through, Jalen Williams trying to get back into it. All of these guys in and out of the lineup and, nights where they don't shoot it all that well. He's the best player on the best team. He's played a ton of minutes in a ton of games. This one was fairly easy for me this time around.
Yeah, I felt like this was pretty clear. Shea, 31.9 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, shooting 54, 39, 88.6. They're 34-7, even though they've gone on this little, quote unquote cold run or whatever. They're still the best team in the NBA by a pretty clear margin. I will just note one thing that I found interesting, right? So Mike Shearer, I think, pointed this out to start. During the Thunder's 24-1 start, Shea was averaging drawing fouls on 19.1% of his shots, which was in the 95th percentile of all point guards, according to Cleaning the Glass. Since then, he's only averaging drawing fouls on 13.6% of his shots, which is in the 72nd percentile for point guards. So even though like fouls are down league wide since the new year started, right? Like there's been a clear trend of free throw rates, not free throw percentages, going down over the course of the 2 weeks that we've had in the new year for whatever reason, be it that the league kind of sent out a silent memo to the officials or whatever. It feels pretty clear that there's something going on there. But even still, Shea has dropped all the way from the 95th percentile to the 72nd percentile for lead guards. And I do find that quite interesting in regard to what this looks like now moving forward for Shea. Not to say he's not still going to be some incredible, unbelievable player, but it does feel like officials are calling fouls a bit less often on some of his little tricks of the trade, at least in the last month or so.
And my immediate reaction to that is it's probably better for him in the long run, because I feel like when you get into the playoffs, and obviously they won the finals last year, so it worked out okay. But in the playoffs, you probably tend to get a few less of those calls. So I think for Shea, they're doing him a service. Like, I think this is an advantage. Like, hey, you're going to play the next 40 games, 50 maybe with what's already happened, and you're not going to get the calls. You're going to get a quote unquote playoff whistle. And so you and your team can kind of figure out, I'm not saying the league did this on purpose. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, I don't think that's a negative thing in terms of the big picture for Shea and the Thunder. And I don't think it's going to have such a hindrance to his MVP, his raw numbers are still going to be fine. That I don't think it's going to hurt his case for MVP or something.
I think that's right. Unless Jokic goes totally crazy and comes back before he loses some time. Here's the thing though, honestly, if Jokic plays 65, 66 games, somewhere in that ballpark, right? And Shea plays, because he's missed, I think, two so far. And he plays 77 games, let's call it, because that's what he's on track to play. 78 rather, I guess. It's going to be really hard, I think, for Jokic to make up that value.
Yeah.
In that window, because that's a big, substantial amount of games missed, where Shea was accruing value in those games while Jokic was out. So I think that Shea is pretty clearly the prohibitive favorite for MVP, and barring injury, I think it's going to be difficult to pass him.
I would agree.
Okay, we both have Jokic at 2.
Correct.
We speak so positively about Jokic on this show all the time. Like, I don't know that we need to, wax poetically about him, especially given that he's been injured recently.
Can I just
any
real quick
thoughts?
Yeah. He's played 1,100 minutes, even with the games he's missed. Just for reference, Luka Doncic has also only played 1,100 minutes and 31 games. Even guys like, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards, like those guys, either because of games played or minutes per game, like the total number of minutes played, at least right now at time of, and this is not a projection moving forward. This is evaluating what has happened up to this point. His minutes just aren't that far off from everybody else for it to matter enough, at least right now. Maybe there's a tiebreaker here and there later on that you could go to, but in terms of what he was in his 1,100 minutes and 32 games played, the numbers are sick. And I didn't hesitate to put him number 2, Sam. Like my list started next with kind of some of my, okay, is it this guy or that guy? Who's won more? Who carries more of a load? Who's better defensively? Shea 1, Jokic 2, tier break. Then let's have a conversation.
Okay. So I kind of ended up with 4 guys for 3 slots here. And then 2 other players that like I really strongly wanted to get in there, but just kind of couldn't elevate into that conversation. So I'll just tell you the four guys I had, right?
Oh, yep.
I had Luka, I had Cade, I had Anthony Edwards, and I had Maxey.
Okay. So we have one different name.
Okay. Who is your different name?
I had the first 3 you mentioned, and then I had Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. So Jaylen is the guy that's 7th for me. Right.
Both Jalen's, I would assume.
Well, I have Donovan Mitchell 8 and Jalen Brunson 9.
Okay.
Right now. And if you want to have Brunson 8 because the team has had more success, totally get it. I'm not really going to argue. I think Donovan Mitchell's been incredible this year. We'll talk about him when we get to second team All NBA. But the top 3 to me kind of ended up having Luka, Cade, and Ant in a group. And then really like, I thought Maxey ended up being a little bit closer to like the Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell group at the end of the day for me.
I think essentially we ended up with the same next 7 names of Luka, Cade, Ant, Jalen, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell. That's kind of where I had another tier break of like, okay, who's going to be my final second team guy? It was very easy to get those 9 guys on first, second team. And then I'll just be like honest. My debates were Luka or Cade for 3, 4. For me, it was Anthony Edwards or Jaylen Brown at 5. And then it was like Brunson, Maxey, Mitchell was another. And then not that there's like large gaps between any of those, but that's kind of where my debates amongst myself happened.
Okay. So I'll spoil it. I did end up with Luka at 3.
Okay.
And I don't feel awesome about it. I'm just going to kind of be honest. But the more I thought about it, so Luka's averaging 33, 8, and 9, shooting 46, 33, 79. But while those percentages don't look great, the thing is that he's just drawing fouls at such an exorbitant rate that he still has a true shooting percentage that is 4% above league average while taking on this immense amount of volume. And in my head, the rationale for me on Luka at 3 was, we all agree that this Lakers team is immensely flawed.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we all think that this team is like, it's a little bit crazy right now that they're 24-14, right? Austin Reeves has missed 15 games. LeBron has missed 17 games. Rui has missed, I think, 10 games. Marcus Smart missed 9 games. And we're still
Vanderbilt missed the start of the season too. Like, I realize that he's not the same level of those guys, but like, it's a rotation guy that on a team that needs rotation guys.
And we're still sitting here. They're 24-14. The reason for that is Luka. Like, I get it. The defense is tough. Like, I don't enjoy watching him guard. It is really rough. And it has been particularly bad, I think, for the last, really since like the start of December. I would say it's been particularly bad. And yet, they're still a top 5 team in the West, 10 games above 500, while injuries have kind of ravaged them throughout the start of the year. So it ended up being very difficult for me to have Cade at 3. I really ended up like Cade and Luka for 3-4. And I ended up going with Luka because I feel like it is kind of insane that this team is 10 games above 500, even if, the expected win-loss tells us that they should be more like a 500 team. I get it, but they've won the games, and I do kind of go by results for awards, not by expected results for awards, right?
So when I first did it, I had Cade 3. And then as I went back through it and just looked at the numbers Luka was putting up, and even just the record of the games that Luka has played in, he's 20-11 in the 31 games he's played in. I eventually switched him. Part of that was me, like, I try to account for some inherent bias just because the Pistons are a team that I watch night in and night out. And I assume there's some sort of 5 or 10% bias, even though I feel like I'm fairly not. And so I was like, based on that, I probably should have Luka over Cade, even though I think I can make a coherent argument for Cade being above him in terms of team success, defensive impact, and taking on a similar offensive usage in terms of what he means to his team's offense. I think the biggest separator to me, and for others, it may be that Cade's defense is better than Luka. Luka just straight up averages, 7 more points than Cade. Like that is, I guess it's 6.7 or whatever, but like that is meaningful. That is impactful. And the assists, the creation numbers are similar. I think if you look at potential assists, maybe Cade has Luka a little bit, but it's still not like they're crazy far off. So these two were, I was very much these two next, 3 or 4 between them. I really wanted to make the pitch for Cade. I do think I could make that argument for him. Ultimately, I kind of defaulted to Doncic right now.
So the way that I would make that argument for Cade, and I came pretty close to making this argument for Cade, and I think it's a reasonable argument if someone wants to make it. Do you know how many, because Lakers games just kind of end up being blowouts in one direction or another, right? Do you know how many shots Luka has had to make in clutch time this year?
So are you asking me how many he's actually made?
Yes.
I can't imagine they've played more than 10 clutch games, 5 minutes.
That's the exact number.
10, what did I say? 10 clutch games.
Yeah.
50 minutes, a couple shots. No. Yeah. So 50. No, that's
He's
50.
made that's
no. He's he's taken 50. So I'll say 23.
Oh, okay. So he's made 4 in clutch time.
What? How many has he taken? How's he only taken that many?
He's taken 12, and that's it. He has 6 assists in clutch time versus only 1 turnover for what it's worth. But like, they just don't have a lot of clutch minutes is the thing. Like, he has played 25 clutch minutes this entire season. Cade Cunningham this year has played in 78 clutch minutes. So only like 3x what Luka has. Do you know how many shots Cade has made in clutch time this year?
I mean, so if Luka was at 4, 20?
He's made 32. Cade Cunningham right now in clutch time is shooting 50% from the field. He's 1 for 12 from 3 and 85% from the line. But he's made 32 shots in clutch time. He's currently second in the NBA in scoring league-wide in clutch time behind Shea. He's dished out 14 assists versus 7 turnovers, which is not a great assist-to-turnover ratio in clutch time, but he does have the 14 assists. Like, he's kind of dwarfing what Luka has done, like, in the biggest moments of games. right? And I think Cade, he gets talked about, I think a decent amount as like a clutch time killer, right? I think that this year I would have Ant ahead of him in clutch time. I'll hear out a case for Maxey, but I'm not quite there personally on that one. But I really think that there are probably, there's Shea, there's Jokic, there's Ant, maybe KD I'll hear out, but like Cade has entered that upper echelon to me of like guys that just get it done in clutch moments. And that to me, on top of what he's done throughout the course of the year, like Cade has been this unbelievable, remarkable basketball player who's averaging 27 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists. The true shooting percentage is basically league average. He is playing higher level defense than what we've seen from him previously, to where I think that he's like a neutral to like slightly above neutral defender now in a way that Luka isn't. If you want to make a case for Cade at 3, I think that you can 100% make the case for Cade at 3. I went with Luka, but I think that these are the next two to me for sure.
Nope, I agree. Those were the two names, and then I had, like I said, then we got into the next group, but those were the two, and I really could go either way with those.
Yep. Okay. Who did you have at 5th?
I had Anthony Edwards.
Okay. I also have Anthony Edwards at 5th. So we ended up in the same spot.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards, I do just want to call out the clutch time numbers for him because they are bonkers, Bryce. They are out of control. Do you know what Anthony Edwards is shooting in clutch time this year?
No, 55%.
Anthony Edwards in clutch moments this year, so within 5 points within the last 5 minutes of a game, is shooting 71% from the field, 57% from 3, 83% from the line. He has been ridiculous in these. He it feels like he does not miss. I know that the numbers are telling me right now that he's missed 12 shots in clutch time. I've watched a lot of those games. It feels like he doesn't miss in those biggest moments. And that ended up kind of swaying the difference for me over Maxey. Maxey shooting 42%. I think that they're pretty close in terms of value this year. But, Anthony Edwards has just been obscene. 29 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 50, 41, 79 this year. And if you look at, his most recent stretch here, it's, if you go from basically November onward, the numbers are just like completely out of control on a per game basis. Like, does not make sense. He's doing what he's doing. Has had, I think, like 5 40-point games in that window and a couple of other like 38, 39-point games in that window. It's a remarkable achievement what he's done halfway through this year. And I continue to think Minnesota is exceptionally dangerous. They're sitting here at 4th in the West, 27-14, and he has been an enormous reason why. I do think he has a bit more help than what Luka and Cade have. I think Rudy Gobert has been obscenely good this year. Jaden McDaniels has taken a leap offensively. Julius Randle continues to be incredibly effective, but Ant is the guy that stirs the drink here, like unquestionably.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the numbers overall, just one of the elite scorers in the game right now, and the percentages bear it out. And then you mentioned, you went through all the clutch numbers there. I think one thing I always love, and I always bring this up whenever we talk about Anthony Edwards, every game I make notes of how his game has grown when he plays off 2 feet in the mid-range. Like he gets cut off, or he gets to a spot in the mid-range, and his ability to pivot, shot fake, step through, all of those things. I know this is the pitch for him being first team All NBA. I do just want to note, I think the the step for him to get to the next level is still the passing. And especially when he gets blitzed, there's still times when I watch games and teams go to the, putting 2 on the ball where he will be a little bit slow to make the right decision, or the pass will be off target or get deflected or whatever. And then I've said this for a while now, I want to see the consistent defensive impact that I think he can have. I think he could be the best defender of anybody we've mentioned thus far, maybe of anybody we mentioned until we get to third team. And I don't know that he does it consistently enough to just say that straight out, but he is a guy that I think can really guard at the point of attack when he's locked in. And there is real value to have that potential. I just want to see it play out a little bit more.
So those are our 5 first team all NBA guys. We can just kind of say that, right?
Yep.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards. Second team. I agree with you. I have 4 pretty much set in stone, locked in.
Yep.
I have Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson in some order, right? Maxey would probably be 6 for me, but like in some order, those are the guys. Is there someone there that you specifically want to talk about?
For me, I want to talk about Jaylen Brown of those 5 because he would actually be my 6th. But I think all of them are fun to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me your Jaylen talking points here because he's been insanely good.
I think one thing we have to take into account here is just like you talk about team context and all of that. This is a Celtics team that is 3rd in net rating at time of recording and play Nimi Keita and Luka Garza at center. They bring all of these young wings off the bench. Derek White is awesome, and we will at least mention him later. Peyton Pritchard has had a good year, but those guys haven't even like shot it insanely well. This Celtics thing to me is driven by Jaylen Brown, averaging almost 30 a game on efficiency, Sam, on 50, 38, 78. He rebounds. He has some creation. He's just like turned into one of the best mid-range players in the NBA. Like he just gets there and knocks them down. He plays with force and physicality, but also enough finesse to get this stuff done. And I think he is a guy that does it on the other end. I think that was kind of the X factor or the factor that put him above Brunson, Maxey, and Mitchell for me is I think he's the best defender of that group. And so I gave him just a little bit of a, nod above them, even though at the end of the day, it's all second team and they're all kind of in the same spot. I don't want it to get lost how insanely good he's been this year. And it's not because he's going to remind people because he is about that. But he's been incredible. And so I had him 6th here because of the 2-way impact and just the fact that Boston has been so good and he's been the driver of that.
Well, and for me with Jaylen, you mentioned the context, obviously, right? Like he's taken over basically so many of the actions that they used to run for Tatum, like in the post and, trying to empty out a side of the court and be able to get him into situations where he can make passes to his teammates, swing passes, kickouts, everything like that. Like Jaylen Brown this year, averaging 5 assists after having moved up to 4.5 assists last year. Prior to that, I would argue having been considered like not a great passer. Right. And I don't want to sit here and overstate that I think he's some incredible passer by any stretch. I think a big reason why he's averaging 5 assists per game is that, he has the ball in his hands quite a bit and ends up being a high usage guy. But I think the passing has improved tremendously this season within this scheme. I think that he understands his reads even better. I think his handle looks even better. I think he's slowed down. We talked about this a few weeks ago on the show, like the patience that he has now on his drives. Like I remember watching him at Cal and I was like, oh my God, like he has no patience. He has no poise. He has no real like footwork on his gathers, right? Like all that is completely out the window now. Like this dude is a real talented driver who has worked on the craft and like, he's not just an athlete like he was at Cal. Like he has worked on the craft of his drives to such a significant way to where he's a serious weapon. I know the advanced numbers like don't love the defense. I don't want to sit here and overstate what I think he is on defense. I don't think he's as bad as what the advanced numbers say. I think that he is a fairly useful on-ball switchable defender at the end of the day, who can take on some tougher assignments, but ultimately hasn't done a crazy amount of that this year necessarily. I think Jaylen Brown is outstanding. Again, like I know the advanced numbers say that he should be more like a third team all NBA guy, as opposed to second team. But yeah, I mean, like the way he's carrying this team is just going to lead to some latent inefficiencies that, have to occur. Like he's going to have to take some mid-range shots because the team just doesn't have any other bailout option. Like Peyton Pritchard maybe at times, but they just don't have anybody who can create like a great shot. And when I watch Jaylen, I'm just like, man, like he has so much on his shoulders right now. He's up to 29.5 points per game. Like I said, career high in assist marks. The rebounding has been pretty consistent. He's just been absolutely tremendous and absolutely terrific this season.
Yeah, he's been awesome. So I want to make sure we talk about him.
Yeah. I want to stop and talk about Donovan Mitchell for what it's worth, because I think because the Cavs are down, that not enough people are understanding what he's done this year. Mitchell is currently third in expected wins added this season, to estimated wins added, according to the Dunks and Threes model right now. He's averaging 30 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game, shooting 49, 39, 85. His true shooting percentage is 8% above league average right now, for a team that has, again, much like the Lakers, much like Oklahoma City, much like Denver, had a ton of guys come in and out. Like Mobley missed those few games. I think he's missed 6, but Darius Garland has missed 16 games. Jared Allen has missed 12 games this year. Sam Merrill missed a crazy amount of time. Max Strus is still not there. Lonzo Ball, hasn't been great for them. Don't get me wrong, but like they expected him to be useful this year, and he's missed 14 games rather. They've just had a lot of guys coming in and out of the lineup, and he's been the one steady constant that has been able to push this team to even the 23-19 mark that they have right now. Every time I watch him, I'm just so staggered by what he does as a shot creator in terms of being an efficient shot creator from all levels of the court.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been disappointing as a team, but there's nothing about him to me that's been disappointing individually. And the seasons he's having, games. I don't know how many notes I have of, man, they're just relying on Donovan Mitchell to try to take this over in the third quarter and get him back in the game, or take it over in the fourth quarter and get him back in the game. And a lot of times he does. He's played a ton of minutes. He scored a bunch of points, and he's looked really good. The shooting percentages have been awesome. There was no hesitation here for me. I don't know where other people are going to land on this, but the fact that their team, was 23-19 and, just, the 2.7 positive net, like that didn't weigh enough for me to keep him anywhere near not being second team. Like this was a very easy call for me. And, if they figure it out, maybe he can climb, but him individually, he's the reason, as you mentioned, that they are even where they're at right now in a positive standing. And it's been an incredible season.
I think it's been a completely ridiculous season. You just like kind of look at like even just like the points added by their overall shooting right now, right? That Basketball Reference has. Compared, like Jalen Brunson this year has added 33 points, which is a great number for the New York Knicks, given his volume, given the efficiency, everything like that. Donovan Mitchell right now is at 85 points added because of how efficient he has been, because of how good he's been getting to the foul line, because of his shot diet. Like Luka Doncic right now is at 43 points added this season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I believe, is leading the league in this metric still. I believe he's a little bit higher than Donovan Mitchell right now. He's at 157 points added this year, because it's just like completely obscene what Shai is doing. But Mitchell is like way ahead of all of these other guys as a scorer this year in a way that I don't think has gotten recognized. for how impactful and efficient he has been because of the Cavs being kind of a mess around him. He's not the reason they're a mess. He's the reason that they are anything right now.
Yeah. Nope. I agree.
Okay. We also have Tyrese Maxey. Look, we talk a ton about Maxey on the show. I don't know that we need to like really go crazy here and like dig deep into what Maxey has done. Jalen Brunson, has the ankle injury right now, going to miss tonight's game. Averaging 28, 3 and 6. The reason he ended up ninth for me of this group is just, I do think I've seen more of the cracks on defense this year with him than even what I've kind of seen previously. I think that they are 17th in defense kind of in spite of him right now. And I'm not going to sit here and make the case that like Maxey is some incredible defender, even that like Donovan Mitchell is some incredible defender. I do think Mitchell's like a clear level above these guys defensively though. And I think that Maxey has probably been just like slightly better because of the speed than what Brunson has been this year.
Yeah, I would agree. That's why I had Brunson a little bit lower, not really in the tier of like, hey, potential first team All NBA, even though that team is still like having maybe they haven't quite met expectations, but they are still 25 and 15 right now. And then Maxey's been awesome. I don't know what to say. Like he drives offense there. I know Embiid has come around. We did a whole podcast on it, and VJ's been good and all that. I just don't think that thing works if Tyrese Maxey isn't doing what he's doing. And again, in a ton of minutes, Sam, so many minutes from him. And as we've talked about, like it's fair to point that out in terms of, yeah, that can kind of, whenever you talk about points per game, whatever, that stuff matters. He leads the NBA in minutes played. Like that matters also. The fact that he's played almost 1,500 minutes. The next guy on in just total minutes played that we've talked about thus far, I'm still going, is Shea at 1,300. He's already played 200 more. Now there's going to be other guys we talked about that fit in between them. Maxey is first. Shea is 23rd. That is the gap right now in total minutes played. And here's the thing. He's doing it efficiently. Like he's 48% from the field, over 40% from three, 88% from the line, doesn't turn the basketball over. And I think defensively, while he's going to get attacked in some ways, he does play hard, runs around, and can cause a little bit of disruption.
Yep. Who is your 10th second team or your 10th player here? So your final second team All NBA guy.
I think this is going to be unpopular, and I'm interested to see what I still had Steph Curry here. And
so I have Steph at 11, so I'm not that far off where you are.
Yeah. And so what I really did was I went into saying I'm first going to value the best primary creators of offense. Like that's going to be my first thing. The Shays, the Cades, varying levels and tiers of this, right? Absolutely. Before I get into guys who I think maybe are two-way players or second options or whatever, I still think Steph Curry is one of the best in the NBA at that. And I will just, whenever you look at per 100 possessions, he is scoring up there with a lot of these guys that we've talked about and above some of them on real efficiency. He still creates for his teammates. And like we always talk about, he creates for them with his off-ball gravity along with the just box score stats. I still think Steph is awesome. And even though I think Golden State hasn't been what I thought, they are above 500. They have a positive net rating. And so I didn't hold like team success against him. And the way, quite frankly, I will a couple other guys that ended up off my top 15.
Yep. So all of that is why I had Steph 11. I don't know that I need to add a whole lot more. I ended up with KD at 11 or KD at 10. Yeah. My final second team All NBA spot. Averaging 26, 5.5, 4.5, shooting 52, 40, 89. He just continues to wherever he goes, fit totally seamlessly into like a team's entire scheme. He has been truly massive in regard to, helping them through the biggest moments. Like, what did we talk about when he got there? It was, can he help them in clutch time? Can he help them in big moments? Right. Well, in the big moments so far, he has 59 points, which is top 10 in the league. Or no, I'm sorry, 11th in the league. And he's shooting 49, 33, 94. So he has a plus true shooting percentage in those moments. And, has 11 assists in those moments. He's actually, I think, played off of his gravity as a scorer pretty well in those like late game situations that the Rockets so desperately needed. Look, if you want to say Şengün is their most important player, I get that case. Like, I'm not going to, I probably won't fight you that hard on it. They do so much of their action initiating through Şengün, in that mid post area. Honestly, I kind of think that over the course of the last month, the Amen leap that we kind of hoped would happen has happened. He has been unbelievable. If you look at his last, really like few weeks, where he's kind of taken up the load from what, Şengün was doing and just really run with it. And I think he's up over 20 points in 8 of his last 10 games. He has a couple of 30 spots in there, continues to just absolutely dominate the glass, continues to be incredibly efficient due to his ability to just out athlete anybody on the court. Defensively, he's still an unbelievable player. Like, I would argue that he's probably been their most overall impactful player basically since mid-December. Like, if you look at their last 14 games, he's averaging 21, 8, and 5, shooting 58% from the field and actually shooting 80% from the line on 6 attempts per game while still playing the elite level defense that we think Amen Thompson can play. The problem is that they're 7-7 in that window, right? Which is, kind of concerning to me in some respect that, this is kind of their worst stretch, right? And it's the stretch where Amen has kind of elevated the most. I don't know what to make of that yet necessarily, but for KD, he's been the one to me that throughout the entire season for them has just brought his metronomic consistency. And while Amen kind of started the season a little bit rougher than what we thought, Şengün, has been missing time here recently, obviously. KD's the one that has been the consistent, kind of piece there that has been able to, elevate them to that 23-14 record right now.
Yeah, I agree. I had him, didn't have him on the first time we did this. And part of it for me, Houston is so difficult. And you outlined all of it right there. It's like, is it Durant's team? Is it Şengün's team? Is it somehow a men's team because of the two-way impact? And that's what makes it hard with that team, as much as I like them and like all three of those players whenever you come to awards, because it's like, they still have the second best net rating in the NBA, but can I really leave all of them off? Do I have to put 2 of them on? Well, then I feel bad about one. Can I put one? But anyway, I did. The more I've watched recently, I do feel like what you said it perfectly. Like the metronome aspect of KD just going to come in. He's going to give you these buckets. That's huge for their offense. And I have found myself warming up to his defense, or maybe his defense has straight up gotten better one way or the other. I didn't love his defense at the quarter season of the award. On recent watches, I've at least seen some of the low man rim protection and some of those things. Again, Amen is the guy that stirs the drink on that end, but I have come around a little bit more on where he's at defensively for them. And so I had him third team. Obviously Steph rounded out my second team, but Durant was right there at the top of the third team for me.
Okay. So I had Steph at 11. So that's my first third team. It's your final final second team choice. You have KD on your third team. I have KD second team. So we have 4 spots left here.
Yep.
Okay. So I have one guy that I needed for sure to put on. And then after that, it's like a big group. And I'll be interested to talk about the big group. So I have Jamal Murray 100% here for me.
Okay. So I have Jamal Murray on, but he was not my final I have to have on.
Okay, so real quick on Jamal. Again, team that has dealt with an immense amount of injuries. This is his career high in scoring, 26 points per game, career high in assists, 7.5 assists per game, shooting 48, 45, 89. His true shooting percentage is 6% above league average, despite taking on even more usage while a lot of these guys have been out. I do get it that he plays with Jokic and those two have like an incredible synergy, but I think we oftentimes like do this to denigrate Jamal Murray in some respect. Oh, he plays with Jokic, right? When in reality, to me, it's a synergistic environment between the two of them where they are so good together now with their timing in the two-man game that it's really freaking hard to deal with them and really freaking hard to guard them.
He's just been too efficient to leave him off is where I ultimately ended up. And I feel like he's put up some big games in the non-Jokic games. But, at 48, 45, 89, you mentioned the assists. I think the number that stood out to me was, just going to potential assists, and Cade leads the NBA in this. Jokic is second. Guys like Giddey, Luka, Jalen Johnson, Denny Avdia, but Jamal Murray is right there in the top 10 in potential assists. And so I think that's why, again, I had a different player that I have another player that I was like, I definitely feel like this guy deserves to be on third team. And Murray was a little bit more in my bigger group that you're talking about of, I want to hash through these. Ultimately, I was just like, he's been too good. He's been too efficient. They're too good. And he's been good in, like, if he was averaging 20 a game since Jokic went out, I think this could be a little bit different of a conversation, but that's not been the case. And so that kind of solidified it for me at this point.
Yeah. Awesome player. Okay. So who are the guys that you needed?
I mean, I only had one more that I need. I think Devin Booker deserves to be on third team all NBA.
So I have Booker third team all NBA for what it's worth as well. I think he's more in the conversation with some of these guys. Like, I think he's like a bit of a level below Jamal right now, but I think that we look at like Devin's like raw shooting numbers on some level where, he's at 45% from the field, 30% from three. And we underrate what he's having to do when he's out on the court for the Phoenix Suns. This is a team that really does not have anything offensively around him. Like Dillon Brooks is their second shot creator right now. And Dillon has had like a really solid season, but you know what you're getting with Dillon Brooks on some level. Like Colin Gillespie, a guy that will come up later in this for me as well, is started 21 games this year. Mark Williams hasn't really taken the jump that I think that some people hoped, given that he's had like a nice run of health here recently. He has to do everything for Phoenix. Like the level to which he has to be involved and has to take these really difficult, tough shots consistently night after night, because there just isn't anybody else who can take them outside of Dillon Brooks, who God knows is willing to, but like it's better if Devin takes them than if Dillon takes them. I think that he's just tasked with so much, and this team has been so successful this year compared to what we thought. They are sitting 7th in the West at 24-16. That I do think you're right. Like Devin probably should be here. It was at least like a guy that he was at the top of this group for me, and I did end up with him third team among this group, but he's just been unbelievable. And I think that people look at the like raw shooting numbers and everything, and they try to like underrate what he's doing because he's so responsible without having a second option consistently with him on the offensive end.
A team that most people mocked all offseason is currently 10th in net rating, and it's driven by him on the offensive end. And I can hear people maybe getting frustrated. At the end of the day, I do put a lot of weight on being the driver of offense, and he may have the biggest weight. Because here's the thing: watching the other day, and I've heard people talk about like Colin Gillespie and stuff like. Colin Gillespie has been incredible, and you're right. We'll talk about him again later. Like, don't give me the Colin Gillespie is so good that it takes a ton of weight off of Devin Booker argument for him not to be on third team. Gillespie's been incredible, but like, let's not overstate what type of player he is in terms of shot creation for himself and his team and all of that. Dylan Brooks having the season he has, which seems like a little bit of an outlier, is part of their success. But ultimately, it is Devin Booker driving offense for himself, for his teammates. Even whenever it's not directly an assist, it seems like his gravity in some way, like he's getting doubled, which means he can hit the short roll and then you get the weak side for a catch and shoot three. So I just struggled not rewarding him, I guess. And here's the other thing, Sam, we talk about this stuff all the time. This team is 7th in defensive rating and he plays, a ton of minutes. So I'm not saying he's like the driving force of that. That would be crazy to say, but he obviously isn't so bad on the defensive end that he's tanking it, because it's not like Gillespie is just like this stopper. Mark Williams has flaws as a defender. And so in some way, he's at least contributing or not hindering a top 10 defensive rating so far at this point. So I just thought he had to be on here based on what their season has been. And I understand the efficiency numbers. I don't care whatever he's having to drive, what he's having to drive.
Okay. So that's 13 that we have. My next group here: Rudy Gobert, Jalen Johnson, Karl Anthony Towns, Scotty Barnes, Alperen Şengün, Denny Avdia, Lauri Markkanen, Julius Randle. Yep. Honestly, if you want to make a case for any of these players, totally fine with it. Towns was the hardest one for me to judge, because there are games like, frankly, last night's game against the Kings, and maybe this game particularly weighed too much in my head and in my calculations as I was doing this. But he's had too many of these this year, I think, to where it's like an automatic thing. It seemed like he did, like, not that he didn't want to be out there. I think he's happy to play professional basketball and everything, but the effort level was not great. And the engagement was not great, I didn't think, from him last night. Like, Precious Achiuwa, like, caught him hard. And it was a bit interesting to watch. I think in a vacuum, Cat is probably the right answer for next. He's averaging 21, 11, and 3. He continues to be awesome on a great team. I just couldn't wrap my head around, like, definitely putting him in there into all NBA. And I ended up with Rudy ahead of him. And I get it that, like, Rudy is, this guy that's averaging, 11 points per game and 11 rebounds, but highest field goal percentage of his career. He's genuinely added on offense. He is somebody that they can throw the ball to in the short roll now, and he can, like, dribble and be able to get to the rim. He can make decisions in short rolls now a little bit more consistently than what we have seen previously from him. The turnovers are, like, right around what it's been normally, but it doesn't feel like that to me when I watch their games. Like, his turnovers are nowhere near as catastrophic as what they've been. On top of that, we'll talk about defensive player of the year. Like, definitely in the top 2, at least for defensive player of the year right now. So, but did I have Rudy there? Like, I don't know. Like, who were your final 2 here?
I went Scotty Barnes and Jalen Johnson. And Jalen is the one player that breaks kind of my mold here. Because his team hasn't been as successful. And, I think they actually have a negative net rating right now. And I think Scotty is a little bit of just like team success combined with, like, this is the defensive nod for me, because we'll talk about him when we do all defensive stuff. I struggle a little bit because I'm like, I watch that team and I feel like Brandon Ingram's kind of the biggest driver of scoring, but Scotty is doing a lot of creation. And I just think he has to wear a lot of hats on both ends. And so ultimately I give him a ton of credit for that, for a team with a winning record right now, 8 games above 500 and a positive net. Jalen Johnson was probably the hardest one over a guy like Şengün. You could argue, well, if you're going to have a team with a losing record, then Deni Avdija. The one name I also had in this conversation that you didn't mention was Chet. Like, to me, Chet is good enough defensively and then efficient enough offensively to at least be considered here when you talk about like how good Oklahoma City is. We gave the Nuggets 2 players. There's an argument that maybe OKC should have 2 as well, and kind of rewarding Chet for team success and two-way impact. So I probably was Scotty, Jalen, and then, like Şengün and Chet were probably my next couple of guys.
So Scotty was interesting to me because I thought in the first part of the year, we had him all NBA, right? Like in the first quarter mark, right?
Yeah.
In his last 18 games, Scotty is averaging 18.2 points, averaging 2.8 turnovers versus 5.7 assists. So like 2-to-1 assist to turnover, 48.9, but only 21% from 3. Like the 3-point shooting has again, like completely fallen off of a cliff. And he's at 80% from the line, only getting to the line 3.9 times per game. And like, he's been hit or miss in terms of like his ability to get to the line. Sometimes he gets there an awful lot. Sometimes he gets there. Like there are games where like he just doesn't take any free throws. Sometimes he doesn't get calls. Sometimes he's just not quite aggressive in getting all the way to the rim and absorbing that contact, right? Defensively, definitely an all defense guy for me this year. And like we talked about in the first quarter, like I'm someone who's been kind of hard on Scotty in the past defensively. Can't even argue with the fact that he's been an all defense guy this year. I think pretty clearly in that realm for sure. But like the offensive run over this little quarter of the season has been hard for me, is why it wasn't just automatic. Sure. And, like Jalen Johnson, for instance, right? Like, if I had to pick a guy that I think is like helping his team win games more, Jalen Johnson or Scotty Barnes, I know what the numbers say. I know that Jalen's averaging 23, 10, and 8, but I don't like the defense. And I think that Scotty brings it on both ends every single night and is probably a little bit more impactful when I'm watching the game on both ends of the court than what Jalen Johnson is. So I ended up with him over Jalen Johnson. I did end up with Scotty third team right now. He was one of the guys that I ended up placing there. And then, like Deni has been really good, but I ended up with Jalen Johnson just ahead of Deni, right? Like I know that Deni is at slightly higher scoring, slightly fewer assists, definitely fewer rebounds, obviously. Just like slightly less efficient, gets the line way more often, but, it's just been like a little bit of a drop off defensively, even though he's been better recently, actually, than what I would have liked to have seen. I did end up with Jalen one spot ahead of Deni. Strongly considered Randall. I did ultimately end up with Gobert as my 15th guy.
Nice.
And I get it. I think people are going to be like, how the hell did you have a guy that's averaging 11 points per game as third team all NBA? The level to which he's impacting their defense is insane. The way that he has completely and utterly shut down the interior, and we can just transition this into defensive player of the year, right?
Sure.
Before we do that, who was your final third team all NBA?
So those were my third team would be Booker, Durant, Barnes, Jalen Johnson, Jamal Murray.
Okay. I just wanted to give you like a chance to say it outright. My third team was Stephen Curry, Jamal Murray, Devin Booker, Scotty Barnes, Rudy Gobert. We can transition the Rudy thing into defensive player of the year now. And we did a whole segment on Rudy last week. If you want to go watch that, please. We went a little bit more in depth on what Rudy has brought to the table. To me, I ended up with him as the defensive player of the year. I think he is completely shutting down. Teams are shooting like 50% at the rim when he's the closest defender. When he's on the court, Minnesota's defense just like completely transforms into like a top 3 unit in the league. They have a 108.2 defensive rating when he's on the court. versus a 122.8 defensive rating when he's off of the court in medium to high leverage situations, according to Data Baller. That is bonkers. And part of it, I get it, is that it's Julius Randle and Naz Reid coming in, not great defensive players, but they're just like completely shutting things down. It's not just that, Naz Reid and Jalen Johnson or Julius Randle, Jesus, are coming in and becoming a sieve on defense. Rudy Gobert plays with those guys. It's not like those guys step off the court and Rudy doesn't play with them. When Rudy's on the court with Julius Randle, they have a 111.5 defensive rating. When Rudy is on the court with Naz Reid, they have a 103 defensive rating this year. He's the one that's stirring the drink. Everything that you look at lineup data wise, everything that you look at statistically, everything that you look at when you watch their games, he has been unbelievable on defense, and they are all the way up to 6th in defensive rating, despite the fact that they fall off of a cliff entirely when Rudy leaves the court. So I have Rudy as defensive player of the year right now. Again,
I understand. This is one Oklahoma City this time around especially has really challenged me. And I wonder if I'm going to end up with a flaw here because of it. Because I don't disagree with you. I had Chet. And part of that is just this is still the best defense in the NBA. And it's still by a pretty strong margin. And, you mentioned it earlier in terms of, it hasn't been as much Hartenstein, recently. He hasn't played. He's played 645 minutes. J-Dub has just gotten back. And so, Caruso's only played 500 minutes. We know that's part of it. I think before the next one, I'm going to have to really look at, okay, what does their defensive success as a team, what should it mean for defensive player of the year and all defensive teams? And how should I value them individually? Is it actually just going to case of they have so many good defenders that it's okay if I don't have one of them as DPOY? To be clear, I still think Chet's, top 2 for me, definitely top 2, maybe top 3. I think he's an incredible individual defender and very deserving of this. But I do think it's interesting and maybe something I need to hash out a little bit more. But I do think Chet he's so versatile in the way he can defend. He does protect the rim. I think the biggest knock on him is probably still just commanding the paint in terms of always finishing off possessions with defensive rebounds and those type of things. But I still ended up with Chet 1 and Rudy 2.
Just for fun, do you know what Oklahoma City's defensive rating is when Hartenstein, Chet, and Caruso are on the court together? And this has only happened for 64 minutes this year.
I'm going to say something silly 95 or something.
89.
95 wasn't silly enough.
89 points per 100 when those three play together. It's hard. I have chatted to Oklahoma City's hard because everything that they do is so synergistically connected defensively. I think Chet being that versatile cog who can be a genuine 5 who protects the rim while also at times being the help roaming 4 man, while also being able to switch a little bit on defense, while also, being able to be this anticipatory player who calls out coverages and communicates so well with his teammates. I do think he's the most valuable defender that they have. And I do think that he's one of the best defenders in the league. Again, Wemby not eligible. But yeah, I ended up with Chet at 2.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Who do you have at 3?
I had Bam.
Okay. I have Bam at 5. So,
okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, 4. Apologies. I have Bam at 4.
Yeah. So, I mean, Miami's 4th in defensive rating, and I don't think there's any question. Obviously, Davion Mitchell can come in, and I know he started some games and he can defend a little bit at the point of attack. But, Khalil Ware can protect the rim a little bit when they do play together. I feel like that's a team that, guys are in and out of the lineup. Obviously, Hero's been out. Andrew Wiggins is still a quality wing defender, not in this level of conversation. Bam's versatility, I think, is what continues to, kind of stand out for me. I think why he's not in the same tier of those guys necessarily is I still struggle at times to see the impact in the paint for a big man, always, just like the rim protection, the defensive field goal percentage against stuff. But I don't think that should take away from this being a very good defensive team overall and him being the best defender on that team.
Yeah, fourth in defensive rating this year. They play with guys like Tyler Hero at times. He's only played 10 games, but nonetheless, Norman Powell. I don't think Ware is a particularly good defender right now. I understand what the block numbers say, but honestly, if you look at the numbers when Ware is off of the court for Bam, it's like a massive difference. Ware is really dragging down Bam's numbers. That two big lineup that worked really well from the midpoint of last year onward has completely fallen off of a cliff this year. The Bam Ware minutes right now, they're averaging 114.4 per 100 possessions. They're at 121.3 allowed per 100 possessions when those two take the court together. Bam without Ware on the court, they're only allowing 108.9 points per 100 possessions. So it really is just the Ware minutes that are kind of killing Bam's on-off numbers right now. They just do so many different things defensively. They run so many different amorphous, zone looks from times. They will blitz guys. They will, sometimes play more at the level. They will switch. They will play at drop. They can kind of do it all because Bam is so capable of being that versatile chess piece. And that's why they're so successful on defense to me.
Yep. I agree.
So I had Bam at 4. I had Asar at 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Where did you have him in the top 5?
Oh, absolutely. I had him at 4. So we just flipped there. Yeah. I think some of this with Asar is another thing I'm trying to hash out right now is the Isaiah Stewart versus Asar Thompson defensive value stuff.
Sure.
And I listen, Isaiah Stewart, I think is undervalued still, but I think one thing that really points, they have a decent gap between them and the Spurs at 3. And I think that really speaks to how good they've been defensively. And they've somewhat closed the gap on the Thunder since the last time we did this. And I think I know it's those two guys. As you mentioned, Stewart's not, available for this or hasn't, played enough games of 20 plus minutes, but Asar then gets the full credit for it as being the only guy eligible. And he exemplifies what they want to do on defense, on the defensive end in terms of disruption and steals and blocks. And he's not as good as he's not good enough straight up at the point of attack yet to catapult himself into the those big guy conversations, because that's what you have to be as a perimeter defender, is really, really, really good at the point of attack along with everything else. But he's pretty good at the point of attack along with all of the disruption.
Yeah, totally agree. He is kind of excellent across the board to me, while also being just he is this year to me the havoc inducer on defense guy. Every year there's one of them. Amen was kind of that guy last year that I really loved. Jalen Suggs 2 years ago was that guy. Just energy giver, creates havoc on defense, creates that unpredictability for offenses that, you have to account for him, but you think at times you have enough space and you just don't, because he's so fast and capable of recovering kind of across the board and help and everything. He's unbelievable on defense, which shouldn't come as a surprise. We expected this coming in, and he has been incredibly impactful on that end so far. We'll just go to all defense now. So we have 4 of the guys on the all defense teams mentioned in Asar, Bam, Rudy, and Chet. Who was your 5th?
So I went back and forth between a couple guys. I ended up with Draymond still here. I realized what Draymond is in terms of everything else. And listen, Golden State is 6th in defensive rating, and Draymond is still really good. I considered Scotty Barnes. I think
those are my 5th and 6th for what it's worth.
So I think my deciding factor was I just think Draymond's probably a little better at the point of attack. I think Scotty still has a little bit more room to grow with that. But man, Scotty gives him his run for the money as an off the ball defender, and especially as an off the ball defensive disruptor in the way he can cause havoc in that role.
Basically equal defensively, the Raptors and the Warriors this year. These are the two guys that are stirring the drink on that end for both of them, in my opinion. Although I will note, this past week of Colin Murray Boyles has been unbelievable on defense.
Yes. I have enjoyed the Colin Murray Boyles minutes the last couple of weeks.
Incredible on that end. I went with Dre too. Draymond Green, to me, it's the captaincy on defense. He is still, to me, the preeminent defensive captain in the NBA in terms of calling out actions, anticipating actions, knowing what you're running before you're running it, and organizing your teammates in order to get them into success, to be able to stop what the opposing team is running. Like, you look at Golden State's just pure defensive talent that they have on the roster, right? Stephen Curry at 37 years old, like, knows how to operate within their scheme because of his synergy with Draymond, but like, not a monster defender. Kuminga has played a ton of minutes. You're not a ton, but like, has played, 18 games worth of minutes. Not a good defender. Podziemski, not for me on defense. Will draw charges and will like do the dirty work, but like, I think gets beaten a little bit more consistently than what we want. Al Horford, I think, has not been great on defense. Will Richard, I think, has actually been really good. And I've enjoyed the Quentin Post minutes on defense too. Yeah. I will call that out. Like, I think that he's been way better than what I expected on that end, especially coming off of last season where I was worried. But like, Buddy Hield, Pat Spencer, like these guys aren't monsters defensively by any stretch of the imagination. And I think Dre has done just an amazing job of getting everybody in order to kind of make that defense work in a real way. So I ended up with him 5th.
And to be fair to Scotty Barnes, it's not like he's working with the cream of the crop. Like, he has a little bit more length in terms of like BI, but like, it's been a revolving door at center. Jakob Poeltl's been out. Mamu Kelishvili is great offensively, but not like an anchor. Murray Boyles, like that is actually an interesting combination, especially defensively. IQ is, aggressive and fast and all of that. But, until you get to like Jamal Shed off the bench, it's not like that is, a loaded defensive team, and he has them in the top 5 in defensive rating. So I think he deserves a ton of credit, and it's a little bit unfortunate that, couldn't get him on the first team.
Barnes, we talked a little bit about him defensively in the previous part when we did all NBA. I think the help defense has been amazing this year. He's in my head. I can remember him making more like massive defensive plays, like in end of game situations and things like that. There was a block against the Hornets where like he won them the game at the end of that game that just like immediately springs to my mind. I think he's made more massive defensive plays than anybody else like in my head this year. But I think that just like the on ball consistency and things just kind of shuttled him to 6th for me, very much in the first team all defense discussion. I think that he has taken a massive leap defensively. Real quick, Sam. Guess who leads the NBA in blocks in the clutch? Scotty Barnes. Is it Scotty? It is Scotty. Yeah. Like, it tracks to me that that's the case, to be honest. Okay. Next 3 guys for me, because Isaiah Stewart is not eligible. Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Cason Wallace. Okay. Yep. I had Amen and Cason Wallace. Okay. So give me the Cason side first. Disruption. So it's like, so here's my 2 things with Cason. One, I'm putting a second Oklahoma City defender on the list. I don't need to continue to hash that out. He is 3rd in the NBA in total deflections and has less minutes than both guys above him. Everybody talks about Dyson Daniels' defensive disruption. Cason essentially has the same amount of deflections in 400 less minutes. And then if you look at steals per 100, Cason Wallace is 2nd behind only Drew Smith. And I only say all of that to also say, like, I also think he can defend at the point of attack. Are there some limitations with size? Sure. But it's the best defense in the league. He is one of the best disruptors in the league on the perimeter. And so for me, he had to be on here. Yeah, it is purely the disruption for me with Kaysen. I think he is just a much better on-ball defender than Dyson Daniels at the end of the day. More consistent, gets his chest in front of you, really has great hand-eye coordination to be able to disrupt the play, like Bryce said. Like, again, he said, Kaysen is currently third in the NBA in total deflections, despite having played 250 minutes fewer than Ryan Rollins and like almost 400 minutes fewer than Dyson Daniels. Asar, by the way, is fourth right now in deflections league-wide. So, that's where we end up there. Just to me was a very obvious all defense guy. Amen Thompson just continues to be a guy who flies around and makes plays everywhere. He's an elite on ball defender. He is an incredible help defender. He flies around everywhere in help defense in order to wreak havoc for everybody. He's awesome on that end. The guy that I have is Dylan Brooks that you don't have. I will say this. And I think people will like kind of roll their eyes at this or whatever. And I get it on some level. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you if you want to say otherwise, but the Suns right now are tied for 7th in defensive rating league-wide. And I think a huge part of that is Jordan Ott being there. And Jordan Ott is a great defensive coach and was a huge part of why Cleveland's defense has been really good before he left. And I think is a part of why their defense has not been great this year. But I think that Dylan Brooks's like mentality and toughness and that hard-nosed edge that he brings every single time that he enters a team, I think really actually has rubbed off on the rest of the Suns and has allowed them to become, they're not a team in his image necessarily. I think that would be overstating it, but they have adopted many of the same things that make him the player that he is, frankly. And I think that is a huge part of why they've been successful defensively this year. And I thought it was worth rewarding. On the ball, he's still a menace and still really tough to deal with. Off the ball, he's probably not quite as impactful as some of these guys necessarily, but I think he's the biggest reason why the Suns have a top 10 defense. And I think that like his attitude and toughness and physicality and like, look, he'll play dirty is the reality. And that's, it is what it is. But I think so much of that has rubbed off on the Suns, and I think he gets a lot of credit for that in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. He was right there for me for all of the reasons you just mentioned. So he was very much part of the conversation here.
Okay. Who are your final two?
So I ended up with my last kind of considerations were Evan Mobley, Steph Castle, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Derek White. With the combination of like, okay, well, Castle's not the best defender on the Spurs. Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr.'s teams defensive ratings aren't like top 10. So how do I change that? Derek White's Boston Celtics, like Grizzlies, Cavs, Celtics are all there. So I guess I kind of just split the difference and I took two of them. I went with Evan Mobley and Steph Castle.
Okay. Fair enough. Honestly, the guys that I considered were, I wish that we could have had Isaiah Stewart.
Yes.
I looked at Jaden McDaniels. I think Jaden has been like slightly worse this year as he's taken on more offensive firepower.
He's on my longer list.
I had Derek White and I had Nimi Keita actually on my longer list. I wasn't sure if Keita was eligible, to be honest, but like every time that Keita plays, I feel like he is really impactful with his rim protection on the interior. I did end up going with Derek White as my 10th guy and Mobley as my 11th guy.
Love it.
I think Derek White's ability to just sprint around and guard on the ball, be able to make every single solid rotation off the ball every single time that he's out there. He's blocking 1.5 shots per game as a guard right now. Like some of them are rotational on the back end. Some of them are block jump shots, right? Like, I'm all for that, but I think what he has done is insane. The other guy that I will say is like a low minutes guy that just had no chance of eligibility, but Drew Smith right now is currently in the top 15 in the NBA in deflections, despite having only played 669 minutes. Among guys in the top 15, he is, I believe, 300. He has 300 minutes fewer than anybody else right now in the top 15. It is ridiculous what he has done on defense when he's out there. Obviously, just nowhere near eligible based on minute total right now.
He is.
I did want to shout him out at least.
He's number 1 in the NBA in steals per 100 possessions. I mentioned a second ago that Cason Wallace was number 2. He was second only to Drew Smith.
Yeah, he has been truly ridiculous when I watch him on defense. And honestly, like I will say this, like I've really enjoyed Chris Dunn on defense this year too. I think he's been his normal aggressive self. If a team wanted to go and try and get him from the Clippers because the Clippers are trying to get a pick or something, like if I was the Lakers, I might look at that move almost as much as anything. If they'd be willing to do that LA to LA swap. But just to round out, so Rudy Gobert, Chet Holmgren, Asar Thompson, Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green for both of us first team All NBA. I had Scotty Barnes, Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Cason Wallace, Derek White. You had Scotty Barnes, Amen Thompson, Cason Wallace, and then who were your final two?
Evan Mobley and Steph
Mobley. Yep. Okay. So we'll zoom through some of the rest of these awards. Rookie of the Year ended up like not that challenging to me. And I expected it when we were at like the 30 game mark. I thought, okay, Cooper is just going to kind of zoom through this and end up winning Rookie of the Year, and it's going to be fine. I still don't have Cooper as Rookie of the Year yet. Interesting.
I do. I went ahead and put him there. So
I still think it's Con.
I really thought about it. What's hard is like they're everything is very, very similar in terms of like team success, their points per game, their minutes per game. Obviously, Con shoots it way better from 3. I think what it came down to for me, Sam, is even if you figure their offensive impact is the same, which I think is probably fair, I think Cooper. You think Con's is better?
I appeal. I think Con has been a better offensive player this year.
Okay, I think Cooper's defensive impact with just what he does off the ball, if nothing else, is more impactful than what Con does right now. And maybe I'm mixed.
Defensively, I completely agree with you. Offensively, I think Con is ahead of Cooper, just to be clear.
And so I think if you have Con significantly above him, I don't want to say significantly, but like if there's I think there's less of an offensive gap between the two for me than there is for you. And then therefore the defensive impact gives Cooper the slight edge.
I think there's still a pretty big gap. Con right now is averaging 19 points per game on 48, 42, 89.
Yeah, it's sick.
He has a true shooting percentage that is 10% above the league average, like not a small amount. Like he is drastically ahead of everybody in this regard right now in this rookie class. Cooper, I thought was like coming up here, but then over his last, 8 games, it's 16, 5 and 5, 41, 29, 91, right? And it's just been like a little bit less effective than what the big stretch was before that, where he was like totally dominant there for a minute, where, just to call out exactly what that stretch was from November 29th until December 27th in those 13 games, Cooper averaged 25, 6 and 4 at 54, 33, 80, which is completely obscene and obviously would be Rookie of the Year numbers. I think that Con's consistency of being who he's been the entire year ultimately won the day for me. And I don't think that Con is terrible on defense is kind of the thing. Like I think Con gets that rap where he's really bad on defense. I think he knows where to be and he's very strong and he's able to like at least stand up guys whenever they try to attack him. he gets beat around the corner sometimes. Absolutely happens. But I thought that the offensive difference exceeded the defensive difference.
No, I want to be clear. I don't think Khan is a negative defender. I'm not worried about his defense in the NBA overall. I do think Cooper's is better. And I want to be clear, like this wasn't like, I didn't pencil in Cooper then Khan. I had to go to the numbers and really go back to the notes and really look at it. And I think for me, it's a little bit more of a two-horse, like it's a little more head-to-head than maybe for you. Like it sounds like you're pretty solid still on Khan, which I'm okay with. I'm not going to fight back a lot.
No. It's very close. And I would throw VJ like into their conversation now.
VJ is going to make this real interesting, Sam, because he's winning. Like he's contributing to winning along with the numbers he's putting up, and the efficiency is holding for VJ in terms of like the overall field goal percentage is only at 43, but he's at 38% from three, 79% from the line, rebounds, creates a little bit. I think VJ makes this a really fun conversation whenever you think about where this thing ends up at the end. I know that's not what we're doing right now. And you think about what Dallas and Charlotte's win-loss record can be and what Philly's could potentially be. And that makes things really fun to talk about.
Yeah, completely agree. You know, VJ, if you look at his last 15 games here, he's at 18, 5-5 with 2 steals a game, shooting 44, 38, 82, while playing pretty high level defense, like above average defense, a level ahead of, honestly, I would say his defense has been every bit as impactful as Cooper's, if not a little bit more. Honestly, I think he's been really good on that end this year, and Cooper's on ball defense has been hit or miss. Let's go with, not awesome, I would say at times. Yet VJ has made this like a real 3-person race to me. I do think Khan has the edge on these two right now. I think VJ has just been like a little bit roller coastery, because even if like in that 15 game sample, if you look at VJ's last 6 games, right, he's at 13 points per game on 36, 35, 90, right? And only getting to the line twice. So it's just a little bit more yo-yo-y with VJ than it is for the other two for me. And that's what holds him back in third. But the fact that he's doing it for a winning team is really important as well. And he's the 3rd or 4th best player on a winning team right now, which is huge. So VJ has been amazing this year. I do have Khan at 1. I have Cooper at 2. I have VJ at 3. I think they're in a tier of their own and in a class of their own.
I agree. Yeah, obviously I had Cooper 1, Khan 2, VJ 3, but like it was easily those 3. And then honestly, I think number 4 was fairly easy for me as well. And then it gets a little bit more like conversation-y.
I assume who did you have it for?
Cedric Coward.
Yeah, I have Coward at 4 too. Coward's just been really good on both ends of the court. Totally unafraid. Blake Griffin said something today on TV that I thought was really, really insightful on him. It was, I'm going to pull it up while we're talking. It was that Cedric Coward plays fast mentally, but not rushed physically. And I think that is such a good way to phrase Cedric Coward's game. Blake Griffin is comically good at this on TV. Like he is unbelievably good for Amazon. But I thought that was such a good point, and I just wanted to call it out. The 5th spot is anybody's.
Yeah.
Like
I went with Queen, and I don't love it.
I went with Queen on the basis of his most impressive games remain the most impressive. But I mean, it's been really rough over the course of like the last 3 weeks. 9 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. The 6 assists are good, but 42% from the field, hasn't made a 3, 0 for 8 from 3 in those 9 games. Not really getting to the foul line. The scoring efficiency is like totally tanked. And it's because the synergy between him and Zion, which is what we were worried about pre-draft, is just abysmal. Like it does not work at all. And how much can we blame Queen for that? I don't know necessarily. I do think that his best is still the most fun stuff I've seen from this rookie class, but he's definitely in this group of guys that we're about to mention.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. The best have been really good. I think that just like their sheer rebounding, assists, some of that stuff has kept good enough to mitigate the defensive really roller coaster. I don't feel great about it, but that's where I went. So,
yeah. Okay. Second team.
I went Dylan Harper, Jeremiah Fears, Trey Johnson, Colin Murray, Boyles, and then I had no idea what to do with my fifth.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So I have Jaeger sixth right now.
Okay.
Like I have Jaeger like pretty clearly above like this. No, not clearly above, but like very clearly should be
second team
to me, I think. And part of this is, again, like it's a bit roller coastery for him, but his last 12 games, he's at 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 45. What is it here? I just lost the sheet here that I had up. Stupid. Shooting 45% from the field. He's taking, obviously a billion threes, 46% from 3 on 8 threes a game. He's just firing from 3. And like the next level for him is going to be figuring out how to weaponize the vision in passing that we know that he has. But to me, just like even the shooting that he's bringing, where he's shooting 40% from 3, is really helping Brooklyn right now in a substantial way. Murray Boyles, I think I'm going to do Murray Boyles on Substack for Saturday because I love what I've seen from him over the last 3 weeks. I have Max Reynaud, like for sure here. Okay. Do you know what Max Reynaud's numbers are since he entered like the starting lineup with Sabonis out?
Probably like 12-8, 10-8, something like that.
Max Reynaud, since he entered the starting lineup on December 6th, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 59% from the field. Doesn't take a ton of threes, but will occasionally take one. 67% from the line. I love the impact in terms of what he's doing in ball screens and dribble handoffs. He looks so fluid and confident out there. I'm just a huge fan of what I've seen from Reynaud this year. Trey Johnson is, continuing to take jumps. Dylan Harper has been rough the last little while, but I thought was really good early in the year. So deserving of a second team mark. And Murray Boyles, like I said, I'm probably gonna have to do him on Substack because I'm really enjoying the Murray Boyles experience.
I like bounced around with Jaeger just to round back to that real fast. I feel like at one point I had him solidly, and then I looked at the numbers and it's like, okay, well, do I believe in the impact other than the 3-point shooting? Is the 3-point shooting just enough to that's enough to be over these other guys? I just kind of struggled with kind of how to value it, but I think you're probably right. I think you got this one right on him being there solidly, and I probably overthought some of that.
Well, look, like for his first 22 games, Jaeger was averaging 8, 3, and 3 on 36, 34, 84, right? So it's not like he had been setting the world on fire here either. But I do think that this last stretch has been elongated enough to where I thought he was like pretty clearly in that group. And I don't have Fears. I mean, when Fears is out there, he just like totally tanks the Pelicans, it feels like. When I watch them, especially recently, if you look at any lineup data with Fears, it's he is the one that's like tanking their success when he's on the court. He's a rookie and he's a guard and he's a teenager. Like I wouldn't have expected him to be good, and I certainly didn't expect him to be good. But when he's on the court right now, they're giving up 125 points per 100 possessions. He's been awful on defense in the way that we expected. And their offense isn't even better when he's on the court right now. So he ended up like in the 11 to 15 range for me.
Sure. That's fair.
Okay. Coach of the half year.
I mean, I'm going to stay with JB right now because Detroit is still first in the Eastern Conference, and I don't think anybody expected that, while also acknowledging there are, I don't want to throw out all the names right off the top, but there are plenty of other names whose teams are overachieving based on expectations.
I have Joe Mazzulla at 1. It's crazy that the Celtics team is 9 games over 500. They are really, really great. And all of the, net rating numbers, they're third in net rating league wide. right now. It's all scheme to me. It's scheme, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. The scheme defensively is so tight. They rotate super well. They're just like a bit under talented on that end. And then offensively, like it's they know how to drive and kick and create their 3-point opportunities. And they just are really, really sharp in terms of not turning the ball over. They make good decisions. The offense is very simplified for these guys in a real way, despite the fact that they have a ton of young guys playing right now, Bryce. Like it's, Jordan Walsh has played 660 minutes. Josh Minot's played 500 minutes. Hugo Gonzalez has played 500 minutes. Baylor Shireman's played 400 minutes. Nimi Keita is, he's 26, but like hasn't had a ton of experience. He's played 900 minutes this year. Like all these dudes have stepped in and not really missed a huge beat for the Celtics. And to me, that's coaching and that's Missoula. I have JB second right now. No beef with what JB is doing. I think he's been incredible this year. Who do you have third?
Yeah, so I had those guys 1, 2, and then I just had a list of names after that. I think Mark Dagnall is important to make sure we continue to give credit to. But I think if I had to give somebody a third, I think it might be Jordan Ott, just because again, just like expectations of what I thought coming into the year.
Yeah, Ott was the guy that I had third. I have Dagnall fourth right now. The fact that they are above average in offense and they are 8th in defensive rating. Huge credit to Devin Booker for, third team all NBA. We really like him. Huge credit to Dylan Brooks, second team all defense for me. Like, I think he's like completely changed the way that they, play is a hard nosed style of basketball. But I think a huge reason why, like they're so good at filtering players to their bigs on the interior and forcing contested shots there. I think that they do a really good job of forcing the shots that teams don't want all the time. The fact that they're sitting here 13th in offense, despite never getting to the foul line, he's gotten the most out of guys like certainly Colin Gillespie, but also Jordan Goodwin has been huge for them this year. Yeah. Oso Ighodaro has been great for them this year. Every time I watch them, I know what the numbers say, but like he has been fantastic. And then, in their rotations, kind of like a revolving door at times of Jamari Bouye, Isaiah Livers, like Nick Richards will occasionally play. Nigel Hayes Davis will occasionally play. Like Rasheer Fleming has played 23 games so far. Certainly you have guys like Colin Gillespie and Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn, in the rotation too. So the fact that he's getting the most out of them and they're top 15 in both offense and defense through essentially like changing their shot selection and changing the defensive infrastructure is, it's such a credit to Ott. I think he's done an amazing job.
Yeah. Other names I just wanted to quick Rajakovic with the Raptors. I honestly think Nick Nurse with the Sixers deserves at least a shout out. Mitch Johnson with the Spurs. And then I also even put, Adelman with the Nuggets, like holding things together without Jokic. I thought, was important to note.
Honestly, Adelman was fifth for me. The fact that he's, held the team together, not even just without Jokic, but without Aaron Gordon, without Christian Brown for big stretches, like now we have Jokic missing time. It feels like they haven't had their whole team together throughout the year and they haven't really missed a beat. And that to me is a real credit to coaching and making sure that everyone is together. I could not get Nick Nurse on there. Some of the decisions that Nurse makes in game are crazy to me. It's pretty wild. Anybody else? Yeah, no, I think you mentioned them all. Okay. Most improved player. I think people probably know where I'm going to go with it, but I'll see what you did.
I'd say you already kind of alluded to yours. I'm still going Keontae George, I think here.
This is who I have at 1 for what it's
worth. Okay. I thought you were going to go somewhere.
I have Gillespie at 3, but I have Keontae George at 1.
Yeah, I just, I've said this before that, it was like the guy that if you told me he was doing this, who would be the most surprising to me? I do think at one time that was Ryan Rollins. That thing, that's cooled off a little bit in Milwaukee. I don't even know if that's as much his fault. Like he's still part of this conversation. Don't get me wrong. I think it's Keontae right now. So that's who I have at 1.
Yeah. So Keontae George last year, 16.8 points, 5.6 assists, 2.7 turnovers, shooting 39, 34, 81 on only 4 free throw attempts per game. True shooting percentage was 93, true shooting percentage plus, so 7% below league average. This season, Keontae is averaging 24, 4, and 7, shooting 45, 37, 91 on 7 free throw attempts per game. 105 true shooting percentage plus, so 5% above league average. It's a massive leap. Like, it has completely changed the trajectory of who the Utah Jazz are. They're winning games because of Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen, and to some extent Jusuf Nurkic as well, in my opinion. His ability to draw fouls, his ability to get into the paint, his ability to play off of 2 feet, play on balance is just it's elite now. Like, he's really good at it. The defense is the defense. It's not great yet. I do think he's trying harder, which is good, but it's just a massive, massive jump for Keontae right now. Who did you have it to?
So I had Nickeil Alexander-Walker in here as well. So I just kind of listed some names after Keontae. So I had Nickeil, Ryan Rollins, Peyton Watson, Jaime Jaquez, Jalen Duren, Colin Gillespie, Anthony Black. That was kind of the list of guys that I wanted to shout out. I didn't spend as much time like hashing out who was 2, 3, 4, et cetera.
So I've Rollins at 2, probably the biggest per game jump. If you just look at the numbers, 16.5 points per game, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds versus 6.2 points per game, 1.9 rebounds, 1.9 assists last year. The thing with Rollins is he is definitely way better on the ball than what I thought he was last year, like unequivocally for sure. I do think that he did a lot of this a good amount of this last year and just wasn't playing enough. But the on-ball jump for him, I think, is substantial enough to have him second, especially given how important his role is. Like, he's their second best player behind Giannis right now to me. It's like him and Miles Turner, in all honesty. I have Gillespie third. The fact that Gillespie went from basically like out of the NBA, not out of the NBA, but like on a 2-way last year, to where he's the Suns' starting point guard and is averaging 13, 4, and 5 this year while shooting remarkably effectively. It is such a credit to him. If you look at his last 27 games, he's actually at 15, 4, and 5 on 45, 42, 91. He's been incredible this year. Shout out to Colin Gillespie.
Yeah, great improvement. Like, I don't want what I said earlier to sound like as a negative or whatever. It was just a completely different context than most improved player, where he obviously deserves a ton of credit.
All right, 6th man of the year, Bryce. Last one.
So I went with AJ Mitchell here as my 6th man of the year. I think he's been incredible off the bench for the Thunder. I guess I'll wait to drop any other names till you say yours.
Yeah, so difficult for me. Really strongly considered AJ Mitchell. I think he's been a little bit worse in this quarter than he was in the first quarter. I do have Naz Reid right now at 1, averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, shooting 47, 38, 78. Just a massive part of their offense, massive part of their spacing, massive part of their shot creation. Every time I watch Naz play, I'm just like, this is such a skilled big man to have coming off of your bench. I know the defense is bad, but his ability to create shots is huge. I actually had Keldon Johnson at number 2 right now.
Yep. No, so
I've long been somebody that like has issues with Keldon's decision making and defense, but he kind of just gives them effort and energy and Energizer Bunny kind of vibes every time he's out there, and he's been crazy efficient. He's at 14 points, 6 rebounds, shooting 57, 42, 78 this year. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, those were my 1, 2, 3, to be quite honest. Keldon Johnson is a guy, quite frankly, if you go back to my notes over the last couple of years before this, I had a lot of, I'm not really sure what this player is. I'm not really sure I understand him. Like, what is the role? A lot of, and now it's like, it's very simple. He's making shots, which is a huge part of it. but he's going to come in. He's going to immediately grab an offensive rebound, a defensive rebound. He might attack a closeout with physicality. And I think he's been awesome. So I had those guys 1, 2, 3, AJ Mitchell, Keldon Johnson, Naz Reid. No real complaints in terms of, any order there.
Yeah. So I had AJ Mitchell third. Over his last 12, 13, he's averaging 14, 4 and 4 again in shooting 50, 31, 87. That little like stretch in the middle of the year there that he had where it was a bit less efficient, a bit less, impactful. It felt like to me where he was averaging like 11 points per game. And it felt like, the shooting efficiency wasn't quite as good during that run. That ended up just kind of pushing him down the list slightly for me, but it's been awesome for a great team this year. Reed Shepherd, another guy strongly considered. Jaime Jaquez, another guy strongly considered. The other guy here that is like really important to note is, Anthony Black has obviously entered Orlando's starting lineup. Right now, he started half of the games, so in theory, he is still eligible, I believe. Okay. If we were to me, his leap has come when he started. Yeah. More so than when he was coming off of the bench. So I kind of default Anthony Black to me is the best player of the players that we've named so far. He has been unbelievable for Orlando over this last little run. If you look at the numbers basically since he entered the starting lineup full time, not even full time, but if you look at his numbers since mid-November, even Anthony Black's averaging 18, 5 and 5, shooting 47, 36, 73. He's been incredible for Orlando. It's just that he's also started 18 of those 27 games, including I think his last 15 games or so. So it didn't feel like it was in the spirit of the award to me.
I agree. I did not consider him here. The only other name I do want to throw in here, because this type of player isn't normally thought about in six man, is Isaiah Stewart. I think Isaiah Stewart is worth a mention. An award that's never going to be won by somebody like him, I would assume. I do think he has real impact off the bench for the Pistons with his defensive impact. And I will say he has grown offensively this year, even though it's maybe not always super sexy.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If your favorite team plays Detroit, I will have notes on them as well. Obviously, the Game Theory Substack, where Sam is holding down all of the weight over there here recently. And then the Game Theory podcast right here with Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back Sunday, I believe, right? That's the plan. Yep. We're figuring out the draft show. I think we have a plan. I think that the goal is to probably do it on the Substack for now. There will be draft shows that we do in front of the paywall. We will probably do a mock draft at some point, either next week or the week after, on the Friday show, behind or in front of the paywall for sure. So it's not going away by any stretch, but gametheorysamv.substack.com, gametheorysamv.substack.com. Go over there. It's the best way you can support the show, just by far. Go over there. You will get film breakdowns of so many dudes. I'm doing Caleb Wilson again for tomorrow. I did him earlier this week. UNC's defense is a calamity, Bryce. It is. It's something. And he's a part of it. It's funny. I thought he was actually better in this game defensively against Stanford that they lost last night and gave up 95 points, even though he was at fault a little bit late for some of what Ibuka Okori and some of those other guys did. But the weight game, he was like a lost puppy dog. It felt like to me, it was pretty wild. So Caleb's a really fun eval that we'll talk more about when we do the mock in a couple, in this week or next week coming or whatever. So, okay. That's all we got. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.